Hi, it's ChickenboneJohn here, and today we're going to be drilling the headstock to take some machine heads and also drilling the tailstock to take some ferrules to stop the strings cutting into the timber. Okay, let's get on with it. We're going to look at a couple of different types of machine heads. This is a typical set of open back machine heads with a push-in ferrule. This is another similar sort of machine head with the same pushing ferrule, or bushings as they're called. This is another type which has got a screw down bushing. The first type of machine head we're going to put in are these with the press-in bushings. For this you need to check where you're going to put the machine heads. This we're doing sort of like 2 right, 1 left. It doesn't matter, you can do it the other way around. So there's a couple of important things to check first before you start drilling. You don't want to be too close to this transition here where you mount machine head, and the other thing is you don't want the machine head to be in this part of the curve of the neck because the bushings won't seat right. So I'm just looking at this, it's running out flat about there and I'm well clear at the back of the neck. So what I'm just going to do is you're going to pencil a mark. The typical distance I mount these is 9 millimeters from the edge of the headstock. That means it's going to sit in there and not overlap and just be the right spacing. Do check your own machine heads to make sure that's going to completely cover the width of the back plate when it's on there. And you can just sort of eyeball how these are going to fit. You can put them in as a pair like that, but it can be a little tight. So what I tend to do is to do this staggered arrangement here. You can get them quite close together, but you do need to be careful if you're mounting them sort of fairly close that they don't clash here. So I'm just, as I say, I'm just eyeballing this. So I'm just eyeballing this and thinking I'll probably want these, I think, around, yeah, about 6 centimeters, 60 millimeters. So I put another mark here, and then I want to be midway in between on the other side. And on each one, 9 millimeters from the edge. You can do my usual thing of gauging that in. Okay, so that's all we need to do. So that's marked out. We know, you can just double check, offer them up, and if you look, the way this is going to work, the cog always goes at the bottom, and the worm, the screw, is at the top of the machine head to get them to work properly. Okay, we're just going to drill through now. A couple of things. Make sure you've got a proper backing, preferably the same sort of material as this is. It's going to stop it splitting out the back. So I'm going to do that and just clamp that in place so it's not going to move while I'm drilling it. Okay, the important thing now is the type of drill bit you're going to use. This is the type of drill bit you want to be using. It's a brad point. Can you see this point in here? Sometimes called wood drill bits, wood bits. Other times called a brad point. But that, you see that point in there? That's going to stop the thing wandering about. Size-wise, these bushings, these pressing bushings tend to be 9 millimeters. Do check on a piece of scrap. See, I've been drilling here on a piece of scrap to get the right sort of fitting. You want a nice tight push fit. See, that's going in there, and that I can hammer that home. See that one, same with that. All of these are a little on the tight side, which is what you want. So do experiment. So if you're using a 9mm drill bit, exactly a 9mm drill bit, you see I've got a 9 here and an 8.5. Let's put one in with a 9, and then I'll show you what to do if you want to make sure it's really, really tight. So I'm going to start with this one. I'm going to offer the drill up to where I'm marking it. Get the drill vertical as you can. Obviously we're doing this by hand. This is a great job for a drill press, a pillar drill or a bench drill, but we're going to do this with a cordless hand drill. So just keep going nice and steady. We're through now. Just going to press through into the backing, keep the drill turning as you come out. Hopefully that will have left us with a nice clean hole on the back with no breakout. And we can just try that. You see that's a snug fit there. That's going to pop in okay. If you're a little sloppy with your drilling, what we can do, it might widen that if you've not kept your drill steady. So the other way of doing it is I'm going to use say an 8.5, an 8.5, and I can open that up a little bit. Let's do these with an 8.5. Again, we try and keep it as vertical as we can. There, we've gone through. You can see it's just risen up. Hopefully it wasn't shelled out too much on the back. You know, and you can press down with your drill so it's biting exactly where you want it. Okay, let's have a look at this. Not too bad at all. It's shelled out a little bit there, tiny bit, but that's going to be covered up by the machine head. Now these are smaller, so that's a tight fit. That really won't go in there, and there's two ways of addressing that. If you want it really tight, you can simply file it out, take it steady and work it a bit larger. And just keep trial fitting it. Yep, there we go. It's going in. That's enough to have done that. That's all it needed. Or you can use one of these. It's a violin peg reamer, and you can see I put a piece of tape across at the depth I want, and I can do the same thing on this. I'm just twisting it, backing it off, and I can just start getting that into it. I want a nice firm fit. If you make it too firm and then hammer it in, you do risk splitting the headstock, so be very careful about that. That's all we need to do. At this stage we're not going to fit the bushings because we've got to sand this off and put some finish on it. Let's do another headstock, and this time we'll drill it for this type of machine head. As you can see, these have got a screw in bushing, and these take a 10mm bit, 10mm hole. The drill I'm using here is an ordinary cordless drill. It's a Bosch. It's only 10.8 volt. I like these because they're lightweight. You don't really need a 12 volt, 14 or 18 volt. That's a lot of power to just be drilling through a headstock. So we're going to use that, the 10mm. We can do the same sort of arrangement, or if you want, we can mount them like this rather than the staggered pattern, because these bodies are so thin. And the important thing with these, if you can see, this fixing lug is in a line. If you get the ones that come out at 45 degrees, you won't be able to mount them like this. You'll have to use the same pattern. But on this one, I think we'll mount this pair parallel, and we do the same thing as we did before. check to make sure we're not going to be running out into that curve or interfering with that transition. So I'm looking about there. So what I'll do, as soon as I'm putting a pair of these in, we'll go at right angles, measure 9mm in, measure 9mm in, and I'm going to come up here somewhere. I can run my, just gauge a line up, and then have a look, just see what looks right. Because I'm going to put a badge on here, so I don't want to go too far up the headstock, so I think about there. I'm not even going to measure that. So I'm going to take my 10mm drill bit, make sure I can clearly see where I'm drilling. We'll clamp this down again to make sure it's not going to go anywhere. I'm going to hold it down to make sure it doesn't rise when the drill goes through. Again, try to keep your drill as vertical as possible. Okay, that's through. And this, you do need to be very careful that you start these exactly in line. Okay, we've gone through there, and again. Let's see where that's gone through. So here we are, no shelling out on the back of that, that's perfect. And then we can just offer the machine heads up. Nice snug fit, not too tight. Again, we're not going to install these, but I am just going to check that everything is okay. You can see the spacing is great. And this should, yeah, they're nice and parallel. You see, they're nice and parallel. There's a gap in between. As I say, the regular size ones can be very difficult to install like that. And when we just to put the bushings in, once we've cleaned that up and put a finish on, they just screw on and you'll spanner that down. Don't use a pair of pliers on that. You will mark the chrome, and you can mark the wood. Use the right tool for the job. So that's, we're drilled for our machine heads now. Let's look at the tailstock. We're going to put some holes through here so the strings can thread through and be held. The end of the box, the end of the top is there, the end of the box is there because it's slightly the way these boxes are built. So I'm going to go about 2 centimeters past there. It doesn't really matter as long as you get a little bit of clearance. I'm going to mark at right angles, and I'm just going to flip my pencil round the side so I can mark all the way round, because I want to mark this through onto the back so I can accurately drill from both sides. That looks okay. Then I find the centre, and on this it's a 35mm piece of wood, so I've got the middle, and then I'm going to go 12mm either side, so I've got a total spacing of 24. I'm just pressing there slightly so I can see what I'm doing. Do the same on the back. Middle. I'm just using the broader graduations there so I can see a little clearer. 12mm either side. So I don't really need to put a backing on this because I'm not going to be drilling all the way through. So let's clamp this down again. We've got a 3mm drill in here, These are going to be 3.2mm rivets, so it's going to be a tight fit. But if we start with a 3, we can always drill them out a wee bit wider. Okay, let's see. We'll start in the middle. I'm going to press to make sure it's seated, and I'm going to look this way and this way to try and get that as vertical as I can. Oop. I think I'm about halfway in there. Yeah, maybe a little bit further. Let's do the other 2 holes. I'm trying to look from both sides. Not going to rush it. The one thing you do not want to do when you're doing this is rush this drill, because if this breaks off in here, you can end up with a real problem. Okay, that looks fairly straight. We'll flip this over. This time I am going to put a little block up here, under here, just to level it, because this is, otherwise if I clamp this, it's not going to be level. So always a good idea to clamp your work down so you're not using one hand to do the job of steadying it. And these pistol grip speed grips are perfectly good for this. Let's see if we can connect with that other hole. I think that might have done it. My drill's long enough to not quite go through. I'm not sure if that's connected, so I might have to fiddle about a wee bit with this. Yeah, I think that's connected. I could feel that go through. And indeed I can see some sawdust coming out underneath there, which tells me that I'm through. And then if I actually look through the holes, I can see if there's daylight. Just to check, if I take a smaller drill, you can see I've gone through there. Oop, that doesn't feel like that one's gone through. Let's have a look. No, that's not gone through. That one's gone through. This one hasn't. Ah, there we go. I think we're in. If I just, yes. So I think I probably just need to run that through a little bit more on there. Very gently. What you don't want to do is to sort of end up causing 2 holes. But that now looks like we're all good on all of those. That's all there is to it. Okay, that's all there is to it. So we've got our holes drilled through. They're nice and even. This is an easier job to accomplish with a drill press. That's where the drill press does come into its own. But as you can see, it's perfectly possible to do it with an ordinary hand drill. I prefer the cordless. It's got less power, and you can feel a little bit more what you are doing with this. I hope that wasn't too difficult. You should have got your headstock drilled now to take whatever machine heads you want to use in whatever pattern, and you should also have the tailstock drilled ready to take these string ferrules. Okay, see you next time.